You wake up tired. You check your phone. You rush to work, sit for 8 hours, come home exhausted, and collapse on the couch with just enough energy to scroll for another hour before bed. You assume this is normal. You assume this is what humans have always done. Survive, grind, repeat. But the real answer is far stranger. For most of human history, your ancestors worked about 15 to 20 hours a week. Not 80, not 60, 15. The rest of the time, they rested, they talked, they slept when they were tired, they played. This sounds impossible in a world that runs on hustle culture, so how do we actually know this? In the 1960s, anthropologist Richard Lee traveled to the Kalahari Desert to study the Juhonsi people, a hunter-gatherer group who lived much like humans did for the vast majority of our species' existence. He expected to find a population on the edge of survival, scraping together every calorie. Instead, he found something that shocked him. Adults spent an average of just 2 hours a day gathering or hunting food. The rest of their waking hours were spent resting, socializing, making tools, or simply doing nothing at all. Nothing at all. Let that sit for a moment. Lee's data became part of a larger idea popularized by anthropologist Marshall Salins, who called early hunter-gatherer societies the original affluent society. Not affluent because they had more stuff, affluent because they wanted less and had enough time to enjoy what they had. Your instinct might be to assume this leisure came at a cost. Maybe they died young. Maybe life was brutal and short, and the free time didn't matter because nothing else did either. But here's the twist. Once you exclude high infant mortality, which skews the numbers, humans who survived childhood in these societies often lived into their 60s and 70s, comparable to modern life expectancy in many cases. So if they weren't dying early and they weren't starving, what were they actually doing with all that time? They were doing the things your brain still quietly craves: long conversations with no agenda, naps in the middle of the day, wandering without a destination, sitting around a fire with nothing to accomplish except being present with other people. Anthropologist James Sussman spent decades studying the Juhonsi and found that their relationship with work looked nothing like ours. Their needs were limited. Their environment, while harsh, provided enough. So instead of endlessly accumulating more, they stopped once enough was reached. This is where things start to feel uncomfortable, because modern life runs on the opposite principle. There is no enough, there is only more. More hours, more output, more scrolling, more consuming, more achieving. Your ancestors' brains and your brain are, biologically, almost identical. The hardware hasn't changed much in 50,000 years. What changed is the environment running on top of it. You were not built for 8-hour workdays followed by artificial light and infinite notifications. You were built for short bursts of effort, long stretches of rest, and constant human connection. Is it any wonder that burnout feels less like an occasional problem and more like a permanent condition? This doesn't mean you should abandon your job and live in the desert. That's not the point. The point is understanding why modern life feels like it's fighting your own biology. When you feel guilty for resting, that guilt is cultural, not natural. When you feel like doing nothing is wasteful, that belief is recent, not ancient. Your ancestors would not have understood the concept of productivity guilt. To them, rest wasn't a reward you earned, it was simply part of being human. So tonight, when you finally sit down after a long day and feel that flicker of guilt for not doing something productive, remember this. Somewhere in your DNA is 50,000 years of humans who worked 15 hours a week, rested without shame, and considered that a full life. You didn't inherit laziness, you inherited balance. Modern life just buried it. You check your phone one more time before bed, but maybe, just maybe, the real answer isn't in the next notification, it's in putting it down.